standard bearer approached Wooger and said that Jin had just saved his life and asked him to do as Jin said. The standard bearer from the Ken family also said that he knew that sooner or later Wooger would get in trouble for having a long tongue, and then asked Wooger to handle things in a nice way this time and not act so narrow-minded. So Wooger listened to his companions and apologized to Jin. Then Wooger left in shame. Luna came up to Jin and said that he definitely has a talent for finding enemies, although it would be nice if Jin could act like a normal child too, she said. Jin replied that he was actually a representative of the Rangandela family right now, and they had a drink together. Luna asked Jin what he would do if Wooger challenged him to a duel, since Wooger is about rank 6. Jin said that if that was the case, the family head Kyung and the other seniors watching them would have stopped the fight. Luna asked in surprise if Jin had even considered this in his calculations and asked when he had learned how the elite hides all quarrels and agreements. Jin said that if there was someone who could teach him such things, it would be nice to keep him around. Luna said that the sword training is enough, what else is needed? Jin said it would be hard for Luna to understand, but there are still a lot of things you need to survive in a family where you are so hated. At that moment, Luna was thinking that Jin was talented and had a head on his shoulders, and was that why they were trying to kill him? Luna was wondering who had noticed Jin's talent so early. Luna said that she was only here because it was Jin's banquet anyway, but it's kind of boring here, so she said that she would go to a more fun place. She said that Jin was too short to dance with her now and that she would take him somewhere nice when he grew up. And before she left, she decided to try sending a message in the elite way. She took Jin's head in her hands and put hers to him. Luna said that it would become clear to everyone how much she valued Jin, so few people would dare to be rude to him in fear of her. The guests saw this and immediately understood the message. We can see that somewhere in the distance a man was jealous. He said that he also wanted to put his head on the head of Lady Luna. It turned out to be Bouvard, and next to him was Vishkal, who shut Bouvard up. And then we see that Vishkal's younger sister, Margella Iviliano, asked Vishkal not to be so cruel to Bouvard because this is important to him. She said that the only reason she could safely attend the banquet was because Bouvard believed in her and took her with him. Vishkal only covered his face with his hand, while Bouvard talked happily to her. Someone not far from Jin noticed him. Jin only thought that playing host was tiring. He wondered where Zippel was and if he should go look for them. Suddenly, someone loudly placed a glass on the table right in front of him. She asked if Jin would mind if she dared to ask the rising star of the Rankendel family for a drink. It was Ceres and Dorma. Jin pretended not to know her. Ceres smiled as if she knew something and said it was an honor to meet him. So she introduced herself and they met. Jin said that he was glad to meet the daughter of the Ice Palace Master. Ceres said that they were the same age and asked how Jin had achieved so much so quickly. She said that she envied the genetics of the blessed Rankendel family. Jin said that he was convinced that she was also very gifted, because the blood of the Ice Palace is a gift in itself. Jin said that he didn't dare to guess how much the head of the Ice Palace valued her. She said that she was extremely happy because unlike him, she was the only daughter. Sorara then suddenly apologized for being rude. Jin said that wasn't the case at all, since everyone knows that he is the youngest. At the same time, he was thinking that it was quite tiring to have so many siblings. Jin thought it was strange, because he was sure she recognized him, but he couldn't understand why she hadn't brought up the subject of Mamita yet, and he knew that the soot on his face hadn't stopped her from putting it all together. Ceres then turned to Jin and said there was one thing she wanted to know. She asked if his leg was okay. There was an awkward silence in the air at first, but then Jin said that everything was fine, even though he couldn't return the favor of such a great person who used medicine for Jin's humble good. Ceres said that Jin was being more impudent than he looked. She said that Jin owed her an explanation about what he was doing in the Moonwell. Ceres said that her people were unable to find the terrorist mage, and this dealt a severe blow to her pride. Then she wondered if the boy she let go was guilty. Jin asked her if she thought he was a criminal, and then said that she knew exactly which Rankendel family it was. Ceres said she didn't think so, but the Rankendel family had assigned him a mission, and if Jin had hired a mage because the scope of the mission was beyond Jin's abilities, then things would have been different. Furthermore, of the possible targets of the Runendels, there were only members of the Ice Palace there, and as the head of the 7th Sword of the Ice Palace, she can't just ignore what happened. Jin realized that she had misunderstood everything and believed that he was after her people, but considering that he had inadvertently harmed the members of the Ice Palace by targeting Alcaro, there was truth in her words. Jin pretended that he didn't understand how this confirmed his involvement and said that everything he said was just her speculation. Ceres was annoyed that he was playing innocent and decided to react. She said she would drag him into the arena, then beat him to a pulp and spit in his cocky face. She challenged Jin to a duel. Jin said that his father had warned him sternly not to fight those who were weaker, but if Ceres wanted him to, he was willing to make a concession. Now Jin is on his way to the arena, telling the guards that he wants everyone except the medical team to temporarily withdraw, and ordered to give 2 swords in good condition. The guards said they wouldn't let anyone in until the duel was over. Jin was thinking that Ceres was still the daughter of the Ice Palace master, so breaking her in front of everyone would be too much. Ceres told Jin that before they started, she wanted to get a promise from Jin. If she wins, he will tell her everything that happened in Mamita that day, without missing a single detail. Jin agreed and said that in return, if he won, Ceres would pretend that she had never seen him in the moon well. Ceres realized that it looked like Jin's conscience wasn't clear, so they started and Jin charged. The sword of Ceres was covered in ice. It was an ability passed down in the Endorm family, 10,000 ice swords. Jin thought it was funny and told Ceres that he didn't think she would use the secret technique in the first place. He said that he was a little sad since he hadn't learned his family's secret technique yet. Ceres got angry and said she didn't care. They continued to fight, but so far they were on an equal footing. As they fought, Ceres realized that Jin was definitely rank 5. Although he was in a hurry to block her ability, as the battle progressed, his real skills would be revealed, and Ceres knew it. However, she believed that the difference of 1 rank would more than make up for 10,000 level 3 ice swords. She was thinking that Jin was superior in both strength and stamina, so she couldn't let this battle drag on. Jin was learning her moves and would counterattack, so she had to put an end to it right now. Jin knew that she was a 4th rank swordmaster. Even if she was able to use 10,000 ice swords, there was no chance that she would be able to defeat him in a fair one-on-one duel. Jin is sure that she is aware of the gap between them and is preparing to end it with just 1 punch. She will definitely use a secret technique, but Jin doesn't know how strong the ice sword's attack will be. Jin decided that then he would just respond with his own secret move. And now the hero is transferred to memories. In the Tempest Castle, Jin had memorized dozens of forbidden books out of the many secret techniques he had learned, and of these, there was also the strongest one. Suddenly, during the battle, Ceres smiled as she told Jin that this was the end. Ceres used the 3rd style of ice sword, Avalanche. The ice crystals flying at Jin were imbued with an aura. Ceres was just standing on the sidelines and was sure that Jin would lose, but suddenly Jin smiled. She was baffled by the fact that he was smiling because Avalanche was released. She thought about how Rankendel might be a prodigy who reached the 5th rank at the age of 15, but he wasn't able to resist the secret technique, but Ceres had a bad feeling. Suddenly, a sword appeared right in front of her face, but she managed to dodge. Suddenly, Jin started screaming, and then there was an explosion. After the explosion, Jin thought that he should have used something other than the Attila family's storm, since this destructive power is not something that the 4th rank can handle. If Ceres didn't dodge, then she's probably dead or unconscious. Then he saw Ceres sitting on the floor. She was confused and thought about how she was afraid of death and avoided it by choosing life. She hadn't expected this from herself. Jin asked her if she was okay because he almost killed her and apologized to her. He knew that Ceres had heard his warning, but she hadn't tried to avoid the storm of blades. As much as she values her honor and pride, Ceres is still just a 15-year-old child and too young to suppress her desire to live. Jin then told her that if he were in her position, he would also dodge, and he was sure that she would also advise him to duck, so Jin asked him not to discuss it. He was trying to calm her down. Ceres took something out of her pocket and told Jin that he had a cut on his face, which turned out to be the same salve. She said it was the price of saving her life. Jin asked her if she didn't think too low of her life, being the most successful in the Ice Palace. She said that she would start to appreciate herself again and asked Jin not to worry. As she left, Ceres said that it was a pleasure to meet her and that they had met for the first time today, but they would see each other again tomorrow. And now the next day has arrived. Now you can watch the duels, so the real banquet starts now. Jin was thinking that he might be able to meet those guys from Zippel. Jin had heard that they were all between 15 and 20 years old, which was fine, since Jin would be able to compare their skills if they were the same age. Jin wanted to ask a few questions about Colin, but he knew better than to say anything. In any case, when he became the reserve standard bearer, he would have some free time to take a leisurely stroll through the ruins with Muraken. Jin thought that using Muraken to find the mana fountain wouldn't be a problem, so Zippel wouldn't be able to continue forging mages. This time, Jin will be able to prevent something terrible from happening. Suddenly Jin saw the cat and wondered why it was there. Ceres saw the cat and started playing with it, while Jin was angry. She looked at the cat's collar and saw the name Moth Runkendel. She asked if Jin Lai gave the cat that name, and evil Jin said it was him. Then someone approached them, saying that they knew they would find them if they followed the cat. It turned out that it was Rewritten Zippel, who said that Jin had no idea how long he had been looking for him. Jin asked him who he was. Rewritten said that he couldn't believe Jin was saying this place of greeting. Rewritten didn't immediately say his name or wait for a hint that it starts with the letter B. Jin said he didn't remember anyway. Rewritten then gave another clue, saying that the place where they first met was the teleportation gate, but Jin said that he still didn't remember. Rewritten said that Jin's memory was much worse than he expected. Then he finally gave his name. Jin said that if he insists on acting like he's seeing him for the first time, it should be obvious that he doesn't want to show recognition. Jin only thought that the person in front of him would become a 9-ranked mage by the time he was 30 and take over as the head. Rewritten said that if he could use magic, he would find Jin faster, but this is Rankendel territory, so using magic is forbidden. Rewritten said that it's been 5 years, and that he can't believe that Jin is already rank 5. Rewritten said that he didn't waste any time either, his magic abilities are already rank 6. Jin couldn't believe that the Zippel family's greatest prodigy, Rewritten, was only ranked 6th at 18. Jin thought that if he were in his position, he would probably have already received the 7th rank. Jin thought that for some reason Rewritten was lying about his rank. Rewritten said that he was looking for Jin for the sake of that expression and that he would look forward to the day when he could fight Jin, so he asked Jin to work hard. Jin was thinking that regardless, if Rewritten was actually able to reach the 6th rank only in his 18th year, then after the current head of the Zip family, Celiac, then Jin is the closest to the pinnacle of magic. Jin told Rewritten to learn to close his mouth and save his breath. Jin asked Rewritten about why the Zippel family came to the banquet uninvited. It turned out that it was all because of Rewritten, because he was annoying Uncle Andre because he wanted to see Jin. Rewritten said that they were just on vacation in the Hewfester area when he heard about the banquet and realized that it was fate. Jin told Rewritten to be quiet and then leave. Rewritten said that Jin should also come to the Zippel banquet unannounced. Jin then asked him what would happen if he committed a terrorist act. Rewritten replied that he always kept his word, and he said that even if Jin did, Rewritten wouldn't kill him, and if there was a fight, he wouldn't take part in it. Suddenly Jin said that there was a nasty guy who had been staring at him for a while, and here we see Bouvard, terrified. Jin asked him if he had anything to say to him. Bouvard asked when Lady Luna was coming. Bouvard said that he wanted to give it to her. He was holding in his hand some notebook on which he and the moon were depicted. This is a collection of poems that he wrote all night and filled them with his love. Bouvard had said that when she read it, he was sure Lady Luna would understand that he was better than he looked. Bouvard had said that Jin might become his brother-in-law in the near future. Jin got angry, and Rewritten even spat out the wine he was drinking. Jin grinned and then said that it looked like the dear guest needed a good beating and immediately tore up the collection. Jin said that Bouvard not only mentioned the name of Luna's sister, but also dared to call Jin his brother-in-law. Jin said that in Bouvard's eyes, the Rankendel family looked pathetic. Jin ordered the guards to escort Bouvard to the arena. Bouvard only shouted that he simply showed his love and did not understand why they were doing this to him. He screamed in horror about how Jin could treat a guest like this, and so they came out of the building where the banquet was being held. The knights threw Bouvard into the arena while he was wondering why. Jin took off his raincoat and said that they would continue the melee. As they walked, Bouvard couldn't understand why Jin was doing this. He wondered if Jin had found out that Baobair had reincarnated those Zippels 5 years ago. And here we see Jin saying that they will continue with the melee. Vishkal, who was standing nearby, saw Baobair and was shocked. Margella said it looked like Baobair and young Master Jin were engaged in a duel. Vishkal was angry with Bubara. He said that he and Margella should come closer. After seeing Baobair and Jin duel, Ceres was confused as she tried to challenge him to a duel during the banquet. She couldn't understand why Jin would fight with such a guy. Meanwhile, Rewritten said that it looked like pestering his uncle until he allowed him to come was a good decision. Rewritten didn't even consider meeting the Ice Palace heiress. Rewritten said he was pleased to meet you and was about to introduce himself, but Ceres immediately made it clear that she didn't want to talk. So the referee started introducing the contestants, first introducing Jin, the rising star of the Rankendel family. He then asked who was fighting against young Master Jin. The referee had never seen him. Rewritten, watching from Ceres' side, said that he had heard that Baobair had come with members of the Iveliano family and that despite his appearance, he might be an experienced fighter. Baobair asked Jin to give him a chance to at least formally introduce himself before the duel. But suddenly, while Baobair was introducing himself, Jin punched him in the face and broke his glasses. Jin said he didn't even want to know his name. Enraged, Baobair swung his hand, a green aura emanating from his fist. Jin guessed from this aura that Baobair was somewhere in the 6th rank. Ceres said that the young master chose a stronger opponent, because it seems that Baobair is completely focused on the fight. Baobair still hit Jin with a punch. Baobair began to gloat over Jin. Baobair thought that Jin dared to attack him with such meager abilities. After enduring the blow, Jin said that Baobair would whine for forgiveness. Then we see Jin hit Bubara in the face with his palm. He was clearly very angry. Jin then continued to throw punch after punch, with Baobair just defending and blocking. Still, Jin managed to break through Baobair's defense, and the last 2 blows knocked Baobair unconscious. Rewritten said that Jin unleashed a barrage of attacks when he made him lose his guard, but Rewritten added that he didn't expect anything less from Jin. Suddenly Margella screamed at Vishkal, and everyone's attention shifted to them. She said that she was disgusted by Master Jin's actions. He said that he couldn't believe that Jin could beat up a person like that after he had already lost a duel. Margella said that it wasn't fair for young Master Jin to pick on a weak opponent. Then she asked Vishkal if he was going to just sit there and watch, since Baobair was their friend. Vishkal said that Buber is no weaker than the young master. Margella said she was disappointed in Vishkal and wants him to teach young master Jin a lesson using a much more noble method. The guests who were nearby wanted to see the continuation of the fight and tried in every possible way to encourage Vishkal to do so. Vishkal had to agree, even if he didn't want to. And then we see Vishkal call out to Jin, who was holding Buber, who was unconscious, by the shirt. Vishkal said, "Why don't Jin let Buber go and fight him?" Jin knew about Vishkal Iviliano that he was a knight of the 7th rank. Jin planned to come out of this duel with dignity regardless of losing or winning. Besides, it would be a good experience for Jin to be able to fight Iviliano. After all, even Shiren recognized the strength of their previous leader. Then Jin shifted his gaze. He thought that Margella Iviliano was a funny young lady, putting her brother in a difficult position to watch their fight. Jin said that Vishkal seemed to hold his sister very dear. Jin added that as someone who also has a sister, he understands Vishkal's feelings. Jin said that his sister was important to him, so he said that he wanted them to keep a good eye on the servants from now on. Vishkal, in an awkward state, said that Jin had misunderstood one point. Vishkal said that the man Jin had just turned into mincemeat wasn't a servant, but their companion. Vishkal asked if Buber Gaston had made a mistake. Hearing this, Jin was shocked. Vishkal said that Buber is only present to help his sister, who has difficulty moving around and his abilities are not quite suitable for the Rankhandle banquet. Vishkal told Jin that he was sure that Buber had no ill intentions, so he asked Jin to ignore his actions. Jin was surprised and kept thinking about Buber. He couldn't believe that this guy was Buber Gaston, the reincarnation mage. Jin was thinking about the relationship between Vishkal and Buber. Jin was sure that there was no mention of the Iviliano family's connection to Gaston in his previous life. When Buber was arrested, Jin wondered if Vishkal knew that Buber was a reincarnation mage. Although Jin had finally found Buber, he now had more questions. He gathered his thoughts and decided that he couldn't afford to be distracted when his opponent was ranked 7. So Vishkal urged Jin to do his best. Jin decided to focus on the duel. He said he hoped to learn a lot from Vishkal. We see Vishkal immediately launch an attack, but Jin is able to block it. Jin was surprised that judging from one punch, Vishkal's strength was more than rank 7. Jin was surprised that Vishkal's swordsmanship was on par with Uncle Zat's. Jin knew that he couldn't comprehend the trajectory of Vishkal's sword, so he defended himself with one hand wrapped around the blade of the sword. The guests discussed Jin being pushed back quickly, but still holding up well. The guests said that the Iviliano family's swordsmanship was famous for its cunning and unconventional essence, and anyone who suffered at the hands of this swordsman would never want to fight against Iviliano again. Rewritten smiled and thought that the guests didn't know anything, because in such situations, these guys of Rankandela only shine brighter. If the Iviliano family's sword is like a treacherous snake, then the Rangandel sword is an indestructible rhinoceros. Even if its horn is almost broken, it doesn't stop rushing forward. Then their swords collided again. With this blow, Vishkal scratched Jin in the chest area. Jin tried to counterattack, but Vishkal easily dodged. Jin knew that Vishkal obviously wouldn't fight at full strength, but still, Jin manages to fight well against an opponent with a rank higher than 7th, while he himself is only on the 5th. Jin had almost reached his limit, but he was starting to feel it again. We see Jin reminiscing about the duel with Kajin. Jin felt the same way he did in that fight. Jinwoo suddenly took up a stance with his eyes closed, and an aura began to radiate from his sword. Suddenly, Vishkal said it was a good fight. Then he took a quick swipe at Jin, but Jin still had his eyes closed. Vishkal hit Jin's sword and a crack appeared on it. Jin's sword was shattered into 2 pieces, but even then, Jin continued to stand with his eyes closed. Vishkal raised his sword to Jin's next throat, indicating that it was all over, and then caught a piece of Jin's sword altogether while Jin himself fell unconscious. Vishkal then began to feel his neck. He found that a scratch had appeared on his neck. Although Vishkal won, he was shocked that Jin was able to injure him. Vishkal looked at Jin, who was lying unconscious and couldn't understand what happened at the end. The moment the sword broke, Vishkal felt something sharp graze his throat. Vishkal assumed that Jin had realized the state of the sword during their duel. If Jin had reacted a second earlier and Vishkal a second later, Vishkal would have died. So the servants carry Jin away on a stretcher. Vishkal thought that Jin was a scary guy. Then we flash back to Jin, who has woken up to find a cat sitting on top of him. Jin shooed the cat away from him. Then he threw it away. It turned out that Jin was already in her room. He passed out right after the fight with Vishkal. Jilly came into the room and said that the master was finally awake. Jin asked how long he had slept. Jilly said that he had slept for 2 days, and Jin was surprised to hear this. Jin sighed heavily as the banquet was already over and he didn't have time to greet the guests who had arrived to meet him. Jilly said that for the last 2 days, everyone had been discussing Jin's fight with Vishkal, and that was enough of a confession. And all because the young master showed the sword of the heart. The fact that Jin was able to do it at the end of a duel with an 8th ranked knight is truly impressive. Jin himself was thinking that even though his heart sword wasn't perfect, he got what he wanted, and the days of Luna guiding him were starting to pay off. At first, Jin didn't understand the training at all, but it really helped him. However, Jin's heart sword is still at the level where it can only be activated in an emergency. Jin knew he needed to be patient, but it was amazing that he was able to stand up to the 8th-ranked one, however clumsily. In addition, he received enough buns, confirmed Rewritten's status, and he'd made a sort of friendship with the Ice Palace heiress. I also found out that Buber Gaston and Vishkal Ivaliano know each other. Jin was thinking that there were many ways to commit a crime through transformation, but it wasn't urgent, so he decided to dig up more information first. Jilly came into the room and put down the flowers, saying that the heiress of the Ice Palace had left them. Nurakin asked if Ceres liked the Jin, but in the language of the Ice Palace, these flowers mean never-ending duel. Jin said it looked like she wanted to fight him again. Nurakin asked about how it wasn't the first time Jin had received flowers from a girl. Challenging as it was still a memorable moment, and then Jilly remembered something. She told Jin that the head told him to come see him as soon as he recovered. She said it was time to prove his worth. Jin guessed that he would probably live away from his family for a while. Then we see Jin walking down the dark street, and so he came to Shiren, who was standing with his back to Jin. Then Shiren turned around. He finally waited for Jin. Shiren said it had been a long time since his children had come to see him in such comfortable clothes. Shiren asked Jin if he was aware that he was being sent away. Jin replied that he knew and planned to leave today. Jin could tell from the look in his father's eyes that he was satisfied, and after being reborn, Jin was able to read his father easily, even though he didn't know why. Shiren asked if Jin knew this place. Jin replied that it was a mausoleum, a place where only those who had done meritorious deeds in the name of the family were allowed to enter through the Garden of Swords, a place where great heroes are buried. Shiren said that in other words, this is the land of those who have protected the family for thousands of years. Shiren started talking about the first head, Tema Rankendel, and then immediately said that he wasn't here. Jin replied that he knew about it, and he also knew that his grave wasn't in the Garden of Swords either. Suddenly, Shiren started talking about Jin's dark power. Shiren said that the reason why they can't pay homage to the first patriarch. After his death, they made a humiliating pact with the Zippels. They can no longer use magic and honor their ancestors. The Zippel gods joined forces and cursed their bloodline. Because of this, all Runendals born after the first chapter were born with a body unable to withstand magic. Shiren asked Jin if he remembered that when Jin defeated his Tong brothers with his aura. Shiren didn't ask how Jin gained this power. Jin said that he remembers, because he even lied that he would use it for the benefit of the family. Shiren said that it was lucky that Jin was a little boy back then, but if it was now, Shiren wouldn't let it go. He then asked Jin if he had heard Solderit's voice, to which Jin replied that he had heard Solderit refer to him as a contractor. Shiren said it wasn't fair to Jin's siblings. Shiren then asked Jin about whether Jin would be able to use this power to surpass them and take over the family's care. Jin replied that he would go away and tell the world. However, if there is nothing more valuable than Rankendel, then he is in business. Shiren smiled and said that others left the Garden of Swords for the sake of other people's recognition, but Jin leaves to see if the family is worthy of Jin's recognition. Shiren didn't even know if he should say that he was proud of him or that he was arrogant. Shiren showed an open palm and said that Jin had 5 years. During this time, he must obtain recognition or recognize the family and return with an answer. Jin drew his sword from its scabbard. Then, he held the sword out in front of him, pointing it up. Jin said that he would welcome his father again in 5 years. And here we see how Jin came out of the castle and Jilly asked him if the conversation with the head went well. Jin said that everything went well, but suddenly he saw something. He looked at Jilly, who was standing with her suitcase and Mirakin on her shoulder, and called out to her questioningly. We see something on Jilly's arm glinting. It was sticking out of the brush, and it was the object of Jin's attention. Jilly said that they say it blocks the aura. At least she heard from the elders. She said that she was even a little clever, that she couldn't use her powers. Jilly said that when you're a babysitter, you don't earn your own reputation, but it's based on your master's achievements. So Na asked me not to make such a face, because it's for him. Jin then said that he would continue to defend Jilly and apologize to her. Jilly said it was enough that she could become Jin's backup and regain her powers when he completed his test. Then Jin turned around. He looked at the gate of the castle that stood behind him. The sun was shining on his thoughtful face, and Jin thought it was funny that he wouldn't be here for 5 years. After all, it looks like this is the beginning. And so they set out on a sunny day like this. Jin was only intrigued to see the world. Then we are transported back to Shiren, who stood in the mausoleum. He thought that he had only reached the level of a half-god with his sword, but he couldn't break the oath that his ancestors had sworn to the Zippel family. Still, a contract with Solderit and Shadow Energy, it is very likely that Junior is the last hope of the Runendal. Shiren thought that Jin might have enough power to free the Runkendal family. Shiren was looking forward to seeing what Jin's future held. So we see Jilly and Jean walking through the woods, and Jilly asks Jean if it's okay for them to leave without saying goodbye. She said that the cadets under Jin and young Lady Luna would be disappointed. Jin said not to worry, after all, Luna is quite free-spirited herself, and as for the cadets, Jin isn't going to die. If Jin had warned them, they would probably have had a send-off with their swords raised. Jin was sure of that, and the thought made him uncomfortable. Jilly asked where Jin was going, because from what she'd heard, most of the bannermen went to Mammoth first. Because destroying evil is the most effective way to earn fame. Reserve bannermen of Rankandle, before becoming full-fledged bannermen, must travel to the outside world and build up their reputation from scratch. In addition, one of the mandatory conditions is independence, which means no family support. For example, Sister Mary defeated all the strongest people in the southern regions of the continent and became known as the Fury of the Southern Lands Berserk Wind even before being ordained as a standard bearer. Jin thought about it. The other siblings were away for 6 months to 2 years, but his father gave Jin all 5. Jin understood that there was only one reason for this decision. Jin had to learn everything about shadow energy. Jin said that they would go to the Arkan Kingdom. Jilly asked if Jin was referring to a nation affiliated with the Luthero Mage Federation. Then she asked worriedly what Jin wanted in Zippel territory. Jin said that when he was on a mission in the ruins of Colin, he heard that a large number of unregistered mages were rampant in the area. They seemed to be teaming up with martial artists and causing a lot of trouble for the locals of Arkan. Jilly suddenly exclaimed that this was a great idea. She told Jin that she enjoyed getting rid of bad guys when she was on duty. Jin had never actually heard of it and had taken all the information from his previous life. Every unregistered mage and warrior in these lands is a puppet of the Dark Tessing family. What Jin really needs is underground auctions run by entertaining guys. There will be a lot of items whose true value is unknown to anyone, of which Jin has a couple of grimoires and a ring in mind. Jilly took her money bag and said that she didn't think they would be able to use the teleportation gate to reach the Arkan Kingdom. Following the family's rules, she was only able to take 10 gold pieces with her. And Jin, as a reserve standard bearer, is forbidden to reveal his Rankandle identity, so the choice of transport is limited. Jin said that he would settle everything when they got to Jin Kingdom. Jilly was surprised and asked how they would get there. Jin said that they would just fly, and Mirakan became interested when he heard this. He asked what Mirakan was waiting for and told him to transform. Jilly was worried that someone might recognize Mirakan, but Jin said it was fine and they should try it at least once. Mirakan jumped down from Gilly's shoulder to the ground, and then we see shadow energy start to appear around us. And now we see Mirakan reincarnated as a dragon. Mirakan told them to hold on tight, because they would have to fly at full speed to get there by tomorrow. Then we are transported to the castle and see the moon. Suddenly, she felt something. She looked out the window. There, she saw a flying dragon. She couldn't believe it was Jin. She was shocked that he rode a dragon when he became a reserve standard bearer. She said Jin was very special, and she noticed that he'd sped off without even saying goodbye to his sister. She wished her cold little brother good luck. And now we are transported to the kingdom of Jin. We see Mirakan in human form, and after the ride, Jilly gets seasick. Mirakan started yelling at Jin. He said that Jilly was feeling bad because of Jin. Jin replied that it was Mirakan who couldn't drive. We can see that Jilly was even worse and Mirakan was worried about her. He was trying to help her, and Jin was confused as he watched. Jin, seeing the current Mirakan, wondered if Mirakan had behaved badly enough to meet people's expectations of black dragons. Mirakan said it couldn't be helped. He would take care of Gilly and urged Jin to find the money, but he didn't believe in sports betting. Jin put on the hood and asked them to just stay here and not make any noise. Suddenly, we are transported to the center of the Jin Kingdom's capital, the Villa family mansion. Sitting on the bank of the pond was the same person that Jin had saved. Despite the grandeur of the banquet in Jin's honor, he didn't find out about it until after it was over. This guy was thinking that even if it was an errand, Jin had saved his life. He wants to meet Jin again and thank him for saving him, just like he promised to do. And then we see Jin coming out of the bushes. This guy was talking about when he would be able to see Jin again and repay his kindness. Suddenly someone called to Sember, who turned around. But Jin immediately put his hand over Sember's mouth. Sember started screaming in fear, and Jin tried to calm him down. Jin introduced himself and said that he was the one who saved Sember from the Kinzello boys. Taking a deep breath, Sember asked about how Jin got here. Jin replied that Sember himself had told him to call if he needed help. Sember said that he couldn't forget Jin's kindness, because if it wasn't for Jin, Sember would have been dead by now. But Jin interrupted Sember and said that he would wait here, and Sember asked him to bring some gold and cash. Sember was shocked and confused. Suddenly, we are transported to another place and see the story that standard bearers must hide their identity. These are the rules. They must earn a reputation only by their own efforts, without the help of their family. It is expected that the young masters of Rankandle, who learned only to fight, lead a poor lifestyle for the first months, until they can save up enough by completing tasks to catch criminals or provide the services of mercenaries. Well, everyone has a hard time being penniless, but Jin is different because apparently Sember still thanked him for his kindness. Jilly said that the food in Jin Kingdom wasn't bad. She had prepared for frequent stops like other standard bearers do, but thanks to Jin, they made it in no time at all. Nurakin confused Jilly by asking if she was the one who said it was extortion yesterday. Jin said that by helping with the money, Sember was able to pay back his debt. As can be seen, Sember gave Jin a whole bag of money. Jin then looked worriedly at the belly and asked Murakin if it was a girl or a boy. As they were about to pass through the teleportation gate, Jin asked Murakin about what he would do if he started to vomit again. Murakin said he was a glutton, and it was sacred to eat too much even if he started to throw up. Jin said that if it wasn't for him, Murakin would have had to starve for the next few days. Murakin said that they can fly if Jin doesn't want to watch Murakin throw up. According to Murakin, only Jin insists on teleporting. Jilly then chimed in, feeling awkward and saying that if she was seasick, they could just put up with it. Jin said Jilly's seasickness wasn't the main problem. They head to the Arkan Kingdom, which is connected to the Luthero Mage Federation run by the Zippel family. Currently, 80% of the active dragons cooperate with the Zippels, so if they carelessly fly in, it would be equivalent to declaring war. Murakin exclaimed that more than half of these mages would shit their pants just hearing his name. Murakin reincarnated as a cat and said that the world has become a beautiful place since the villains hold their heads high. Jin chided Murakin for turning in the middle of the street. Dragons, gods who are in debt to dragons, and dozens of contractors associated with these gods support the Zippel family. On the one hand, Jin is the only Rangandel who has made a contract with God, and if it weren't for his father, the Zippels would have destroyed them by now. Jin then suddenly wondered how they had managed to gather so many contractors. And even in the same generation, this is hardly a coincidence. And then they came to the gate, and the man at the entrance asked them to show their documents. Jin was so lost in thought that he didn't notice them coming. Jean gave him the documents and introduced himself as Jean Grey, and Gilly was named Python. He said that they want to visit the Arkan Kingdom, see the sights. Then they're sitting on the couch in the waiting room. It was announced that the move to the Arkan Kingdom was starting. Possible headache and dizziness. Passengers were asked to stay in a comfortable position and not get up. Jilly said that as expected from the identification cards made by the family, they passed without problems. Jin said that the cards were certainly sophisticated enough to fool even the Bement Empire's Special Affairs Department. And now the start of teleportation was announced. Merkin, as expected, became ill. Jin thought that the Arkan Kingdom reminded him of something from his previous life. But it's been 15 years, and now we see that the heroes have arrived. They arrived at the Luthero Magic Federation, Arkan Kingdom. Jin was thinking about something. He was thinking about the capital. After all, here he spent the last year before rebirth. For 15 years he was not here, and the landscape is still the same. Street vendors roam, homeless people lie around. People with grim faces. Jilly said it was a strange place, despite the fine weather. Jin guessed that it was probably because of the looters. He had heard that it was particularly bad at this time. Jin suggested that we settle down first and then track down the victim. And here is the throne of our heroes standing in front of the house. Murakin asked Jin if he was serious about staying in this godforsaken shed. Jilly said that Jin probably had a plan, but Murakin grumbled that since Jin was rich, there was no point in them staying here. Jin asked if it was a good idea for a bunch of unregistered magicians to come to such an environment and show that they had a lot of money. Still, Murakin was still angry. In his opinion, not even orcs would come here. So they went into a dark room and there they saw a sleeping man. Jin asked the man if he was the owner of this inn. The man apparently did not see the guests for so long that at first he did not believe it. This person assumed that Murakin Joggalo, Jin is an aspiring swordmaster, and the young lady next to him is a maid. He smiled horribly. Then, unexpectedly, he pulled out 3 clear glasses of drinks. He greeted them, told them that they were at Jet's Inn and that he had plenty of rooms available. He said there was orange juice in the glasses, and let them help themselves and choose any room they liked. The innkeeper wanted the guests to drink the juice, and when they woke up, they would start a new life in the underground auction house. Murakin eyed the drink suspiciously, then noticed something. Murakin smashed the glass and threw it directly at the innkeeper's forehead. The innkeeper was horrified. He didn't understand what Murakin was doing. Then Murakin jumped up on the counter. He kicked the innkeeper right in the head. Murakin asked the innkeeper how dare he try to poison him. Meanwhile, Jin poured out his juice. Thankfully no one took a sip. The innkeeper pretended not to understand. Murakin was furious. He told him that he was going to die today. The battered hotel owner started asking Murakin to wait and offered to talk. But Murakin was so angry that he didn't listen to him and kicked him in the face again. And so Jin is transported back in time. He remembers that Jet is a self-proclaimed high-class informant, someone to whom Jin was in debt in a previous life. Thanks to his help, Jin, who was exiled from his family and had no foundation, was able to settle down here in Arkan. Over time, they became closer, but this did not lead to anything good. Under the pretext of getting to know the underground auction houses of Tessing, he had cheated Jin countless times and taken everything but his clothes. Just thinking about it pisses Jin off. Jin watched Murakin beat up Jet. Jin thought about how he was going to make the most of Jet this time. Murakin continued to beat up Jet, who was curled up on the floor, but Jet suddenly exclaimed that he was going to ask them a question. He said that despite his appearance, he was rank 5. Murakin said that no one cares and hit Jet again. Murakin wasn't going to stop, so Jet started shouting that he was wrong. It wasn't poison, it was a sedative. Jin stared at it and decided for a moment that it was probably enough. Jin ordered Murakin to stop and offered to listen to what Jet had to say. Murakin was angry and couldn't understand why they should listen to someone who tried to poison them. Jet begged Jin for salvation, calling him his lord. Jin sat down across from him and said he would ask a few simple questions. If Jet lied, he would die. If he told the truth, he would live. Jin said that he would judge his answers subjectively based on his feelings and instincts. Murakin stopped hitting Jet, entrusting Jin with further decisions. Jin asked Jet what he was doing. Jet replied that he was the innkeeper and an informant, but Jin knew, so he pressed Jet. Jet continued his answer. He said that he is a customs officer and also a human trafficker. Then he begged Jin for mercy, because in that case, he promised that he would be useful. Jin said it looked like Jet was trying to drug them so he could sell them somewhere, to which Jet said yes. Jin put his foot on Jet's toes and asked where. Jet asked again, but Jin immediately pressed his fingers and Jet said over his screams that Tessinga was in the underground auction house. He said that Tessing is a dark organization that runs auction houses. People, illicit drugs, stolen treasures, and even artifacts, in other words, a place where everything is. Jin said that Jet would heal by the evening and asked if he knew what to do next. Jet said yes. Murakin asked Jin if he was going to spend money on medical bills for such scum. Gilly supported Murakin, saying that if they spared Jet, he would try to deceive them again. Jin said about the dark organization and the underground auction house. Murakin and Gilly didn't understand what Jin meant. Jin asked if there was anything better than destroying them, and then said that it was never too late to get rid of Jet. Jin said they would trust him because they needed a guide through Arkan anyway. But first, he's going to find someone to take care of him. Murakin frowned. He was not happy with Jin's decision. After leaving the inn, Jin let out a sigh of relief. He didn't expect it to be so tiring to play ignorant when you know everything. But it's not his plan to tell anyone about the rebirth, so it can't be helped. And now the heroes are in the hotel, and it's night outside. The doctor said not to disturb the hand until the bones are mended. When the doctor left, he told them to call at any time if they needed him. Jet was surprised that the man they met on the street turned out to be such a talented doctor. While Jet looked at himself in the mirror, he couldn't understand why these crazy people first beat him up and then cured him. Jet wondered who they were. He assumed that Jin was the heir to a martial arts family or Bement's special affairs department, but whatever it was, he knew that there would be nothing left of him if he decided to stab him in the back. Jin told Jet that it was time to move out, and Jet got scared and asked Jin again. Jin said again that they had to go, and here we are transported to an underground auction house. The guard standing at the entrance saw Jet and our heroes. They asked him why he brought such a crowd. The guard asked if it was merchandise, but Jet answered, telling the guard to stop talking nonsense and open up because they were his guests. And so they went through, and then there was a wooden door where the doorman was standing. He opened the door for them, and something luxurious was happening behind it. Jin looked at it and saw that there were huge shiny chandeliers hanging there. There was also an orchestra led by a conductor, all of them wearing masks. Murakin said that these guys were funny since they brought a whole orchestra. Jet said it wasn't much for a bandit-run hole. Although everyone knows that Tessing's boss is called Saga, the real puppet master is someone else. Jet handed the mask to Murakin and asked him to take it. He said that if they wanted to go to the auction house, it was better to hide their faces. Jin put on a mask and asked who the real boss was. Jet replied that it was someone called a Luck Spiderhand. He said that everything here was designed to suit his taste, because he did his best to hide his rudeness and lack of education. For a small fry like Jet, everything is different. Jet said that not only does Allah have the ability to pacify these dirty streets, he is also a 7-rank martial artist from Arable land. Jet said that there were rumors that Allah had connections with the pure-blood Rangandal family across the sea. Murakin said just ignore it and asked Jin if he really thought these guys were hanging out with scumbags from the bottom of the neighboring state. Jilly supported Murakin and said that she didn't see anyone matching the description. Jin didn't say anything, but he was thinking that there was one, the person who had put a curse on him that made Jin unable to wield a sword. If there's a connection to the Federation of Magic, then it's very likely that it's him. A 9th rank curse that hinders one's ability to wield a sword, Blade Illusion. Jin denied the possibility that there was a mage in Tessinga who could cast such a complex spell, But 10 years in Storm Castle and 5 in the Garden of Swords, Jin had been unable to find a single clue for 15 years, so he decided that he should try to grasp at straws. Jin said they were here to blow this place up, and a nice bonus will be that they will find out the identity of this Aluk. And here we see them walking somewhere in the mine. Nurakin and Gilly were not happy with Jin's plan, as they didn't really know anything about it. Gilly said that the guards they saw along the way looked pretty strong. However, Jin said that he had thought everything through and asked not to worry. Gilly asked him what exactly he had planned, but Jin called them over and told them the whole plan. And after that, Mirakin says that sometimes he doesn't understand at all what's going on in Jin's head or how he came to think of such things in the first place. Gilly said it was definitely unusual, but was Jin sure what would happen? Jin told her not to worry because they could always just run away. So Jet stopped and said it was here, deliberately taking a place that wasn't too obvious. Jet said welcome, opening the screen a crack. And here we have a top view of the Tessinga Flower, an underground auction house. All the heroes sat down on the balcony on chairs and the auction began. The person who announced the auction also said that it doesn't matter where you are from or what your story is. Their first lot today is something that guests can use to suit their tastes. And now we see people in shackles coming on stage. The host said they were all in good condition. He encouraged me to take a look at the guy at the very end, because it looks like he will be very useful. Jin realized that Jet had sold out of trying them the same way and told him so. In response to this, Jet put his hands around his neck and said that he didn't understand what he was doing. Jin was saddened by the sight, but he was still glad that he didn't see any children among them. Mirakin asked Jin what they would do. Jin said to wait. Jin said that he had heard that sometimes some interesting items slipped through at these auctions. He said that if something like this happens, he will buy it first and then make a move. Nurakin was concerned about Jin's decision. Jin was thinking about the artifact at the same time. He remembered some ring that was rotting somewhere in the vault. Jin can only get it after their plan is implemented. And so the host happily turned to the ladies and gentlemen and said that the auction had begun. Jin planned to wait patiently. And now we are transported to a week and see how the host calls prices and conducts the auction in full. Then we see Jet whispering something to the young master. Jet said that Jin had spent a whole week just watching. If the master didn't buy something today, the people from Tessing might cause Jin trouble. Jin asked Jet if it was his job to prevent them. Jet pretended to say that the young master could do as he pleased. But Jet was angry and his job and his life were in danger. Jet was thinking that whoever Jin was, they were going to throw him out at this rate. Jet just wanted Jin to buy something and not involve him in his mess. Meanwhile, the host announced the next lot, the first grimoire of the evening. The host said that this grimoire belonged to Matthew Wanick, a magician who once ruled the world, and they couldn't neutralize it, but powerful magic must be etched in the pages. Jean watched it as if it was fun, because this was Matthew Mornick, and they were crooks themselves. In addition, most of Mornick's grimoires are controlled by the Zippel family, which means that the chance of originality of this lot is 0. Jin thought about how he had been at the Tessinga auction for a whole week, and every day was the same. The host continues to talk nonsense, and magicians are willingly led. We see that the host announced that Chenmi was the author of the grimoire and set the initial bid at 50 gold. Jin thought about how they sometimes put up such grimoires, obscure ones, like lottery tickets. Nurakin then put his hand on Jin's shoulder and told him to buy this, because the grimoire, if it really belonged to the Chenmi, Murakin knew they needed it. The host looked at the balcony in surprise. Everyone was surprised that Jin had placed 150 gold coins. Jin looked at Murakin, thinking that since the grimoire had recommended Murakin, there was no reason to ask questions. The host announced the next grimoire. This is the Shujil Easter grimoire, and Jin recognized the name and was surprised. Of course, no one had ever heard of Easter, and neither had Chenmi. The host looked again in surprise at the balcony where Jin raised his hand. Jin placed 200, and everyone in the audience was shocked. Everyone was discussing who this person was who kept buying up strange things. Murakin asked Jin why he bought the book and if he knew it. Jin said that he just thought it would be a good idea to buy something else, but it's actually his master's item from a previous life. The Easterom family was destroyed hundreds of years ago and Jin found their trail here, and so the host announced that the lot was sold for 200 gold. Jin thought about what he would give to the master when he met him, and then said that it was enough and time to make a move. After leaving the auction, Murakin flipped through the grimoires. It turned out to be the Chenmi he was thinking of. Murakin then asked what kind of grimoire Easter has, which has a bizarre and strange code. Only the master and he can read this code. Jet said that it was good that Jin bought something, because otherwise they would be in trouble. Jay and I turned to Jet, who was smiling happily. Jin said that he needed to meet Allah and Jet immediately changed his face. Jet said it was impossible, but Jin just put his hand on Jet's shoulder and told him to go and tell Allah that Veridin Zippel wanted to see him. Jet was shocked to hear this. He ran to Aluch's office and told him that this madman wasn't from Bement's Special Affairs Department, but a full-blooded Zippel. Jet was incredibly happy, thinking about becoming an informant for the Zipples and leaving this hole. Jet opened the door and shouted for Allah to come out. Rewritten Zipple is here. There was a crowd of security guards in suits standing there, so the guard came out to Jin and called out to him disrespectfully. We see that behind this guard was a beaten Jet and other guards. The guard started to say something, but Jin hit him right in the jaw. Jin then used fire magic and asked if they were bullying him. He asked the guard if he was Aluk while holding a fireball. The guard was horrified and said that Sir Alug had ordered him to be escorted to him. Jin still used magic. He made a small explosion. Jin said that he revealed his name, but Aluk dared to send his pawns. Jin told the guard to tell Aluha to come here himself, to crawl on all fours right at Jin's feet. And then we see that the man in the red suit and all the guards were lying on the floor bowing down to Jin. The man said he was Allah, the one who took care of Tessing. He said that he made a mistake by not acknowledging what he called Jin, the Lord of Heaven, and then begged for forgiveness. Jet stood behind Jin and thought that if someone else claimed to be Rewritten Zipple, he would laugh in his face, but Jin was different, his aura was different. Jet smiled ominously as he thought about the fact that Jin had used a fireball before, and that was at least rank 5 mana. It would be difficult for others to use it freely at that age, but not for Zipple. Then we fast forward to events a week ago. Jin said that he would pretend to be Rewritten, and Mirakan and Gilly were surprised to hear this. Jin said that even if this Allah knew someone who knew the Zipples, it was unlikely that this person was above the status of an old servant. In other words, Aluk can't prove that Jin isn't Rewritten. Gilly was worried, because it wasn't a matter of Jin being found out or not. If the family or the patriarch got wind of it in the future, then Jin wouldn't be in any trouble. Then we flash back to find Jin ordering Aluk to get up. Alug immediately stood up. He called him Sir. Jin then showed 2 grimoires and asked Allah if he knew what they were. Aluk replied that they were magical manuscripts and apologized for requesting ancient magical manuscripts without Zipple's permission. Jin said these manuscripts were highly valued by the Zipple family. He asked Alaga how much money he had earned that way. Aluk said it was a pathetic excuse, but he was a martial artist. He was stupid enough not to be able to determine the value of these items and inconvenience Rewritten. He promised to do everything possible to get them back and asked for a chance. Jin said it was easier for him to get them back himself than to rely on a guy like Allah. Jin then ordered Aluk to and bring the list of auctioneers and the account book. He then said that the Zipple family would launch an investigation tomorrow, which left Alo confused. He was terrified and lowered his head. This is the end, because no matter how hard the Tessingers try, unlike the Zipples, they are just a small local gang. If anything comes up during the investigation that the mages don't like, Tessing is finished. And so Aluha gave them, as he himself said, almost everything that was at the auction. Jin asked if there were any others, to which Aluk said yes, but they were in a heavily guarded vault. Aluk said that it was located in the workers' residence, and if Jin would allow him to leave temporarily, he would deliver them immediately. Jin said it would take a couple of hours, so what the heck was Aluk trying to do? He asked if Aluk was going to run away and destroy important documents, then check if Jin was real and why he was here, asking the guys who were bribed by Aluk. Aluk only lowered his head in annoyance. Jin said that Aluk could do whatever he wanted, but he had to remember that he was still on Jin's hook. Then Aluk turned around, saying that he would be back soon, and ordered the servants to show Rewritten the vault in his absence. While Aluk was leaving, he ordered one of the guards to keep Jin in the mansion until he returned. Aluk was furious. He thought about how Jin was arrogant and thought that everyone obeyed him. He was angry that he had spent so much money on the Zipples, but he decided that he would find a way to buy them back. We see Mirakan throwing boxes around and yelling at Gilly to give up everything. She asked if everything was absolutely fine, to which Mirakan replied that it was only stolen goods. While throwing objects, Mirakan hit the guard. Mirakan whispered to Jin about Aluk. Mirakan said that Aluk would find out that Jin was lying when he got back, so what would he do? Jin said they just buy at 100% discount and run away before he gets back. Then he saw a box and he opened it. There was a ring lying there. Jin finally found the ring he was looking for. Gilly asked Jin if they were going to throw themselves headlong into the pool, but Gilly was still in shock. Jin said he'd take it as a compliment. Jet suddenly burst into the room with a stack of papers in his hands. It turned out to be the same papers that Jin had requested. Jet said he had recorded all the birth regions and ages. Jin headed for the exit, saying that they were done here. But he was stopped by a security guard and told that the boss would bring the account book soon. Until then, he asked them to stay in the mansion. But Jin immediately punched the guard in the jaw. With this blow, he knocked out his tooth. And then the guard fell unconscious. Jet had said that Jin was great and not only a powerful mage, but also a great fighter, but he was thinking about why Jin had put Aluha on the scoreboard for his subordinate. Jin asked Jet if he had a family. He replied that he had a son. Jin then told Jet to grab him and run, better go to the Bement Empire. Hearing this, Jet was surprised. Jin advised Jet to give them the bills and introduce himself as an informant because this is the only way he can survive. Jet started to get stubborn about staying with Jin until the end because he had worked so hard for this opportunity. Jet asked to be allowed to serve Jin in great deeds for the rest of his life. Jet wanted to succeed at something for once. Then Jin said he wasn't Rewritten Zipple. Jet was both shocked and heartbroken. And now 2 hours had passed. We see Aluk standing in that room and the security guard that Jin knocked out. Aluk said that he had heard that Rewritten Zipple had long silver hair. Aluha's subordinate then said that they took information about the and other clients and then ran away, saying that testing was finished. Aluk was so angry that even the veins in his neck bulged, and he ordered them to catch up. The subordinate hesitated. Then an enraged Aluk grabbed him by the head, swung, and then with incredible force threw him against the wall. The throw was so strong that the subordinate almost broke through the wall. The other subordinates felt fear. Aluk started shouting to his subordinates to take all those who were left and bring back these crooks. He shouted at the top of his lungs that he would skin them with his own hands. Then we flash back to the next scene. The characters are sitting around a campfire and Rewritten says that he still doesn't understand why they are idle. Jin said that he didn't think they would get anything by fussing over Aluk. He needs to find out if Aluk is connected to the Rangandals. Rewritten said that he would just take it as a farewell before leaving. In the end, Aluk gave Jin a Chenmi grimoire and even gave him a masterpiece. Rewritten said that he went crazy when he saw this ring in Jin's hand on the way out of the auction. Rewritten asked how Jin even knew about something so old. But suddenly a red glow appeared in the sky. It was the guards of Aluk. He discovered the heroes and called the boss. They annoyed Rewritten a lot, and Jin got up and said that now they would have a chat. Aluk was angry. He finally found them. He said that they were scammers and asked if they really thought that they could cheat Aluk and run away. An enraged Aluk started shouting that he would hang them in the market as a warning to others. Show them what happens when you get involved with the head of Tessing, Aluk Spiderhand. Jin then started talking about the Rewritten, which contained the names of the abducted people from Bamet, the transaction ledger with the ancient grimoire that the Zipple family is looking for, and the client register which lists all the nobles who turned a blind eye to Aluk. Jin said he would distribute it to all over the world. Starting tomorrow, the world will be watching Aluk. Jin said that magic mail is incredibly convenient. And then he said that if I was being honest, I was done with Aluk. Hearing this, Aluk lost his temper. He screamed that he wouldn't let Jin die easily, that he would skin him alive, and that every time Jin lost consciousness, Aluk would bring him back by burning him with flames. Jin then turned to Rewritten. He said that he wanted to punch Aluha in the face one-on-one. Rewritten only sighed heavily when he heard this. Then, reluctantly, he walked towards the enemy. Enraged, Aluk said that he was crazy and could not do anything alone, and ordered everyone not to stand like idols and attack. And so the mages began to attack Rewritten. Aluk said to let the guy live and bring him to him. The others he ordered killed. Meanwhile, the subordinates attacked Rewritten. Rewritten was able to defeat the guard who ran into him with just his palm. But Rewritten broke his sword with this blow and the guard fell unconscious. Then Aluk's other subordinates began to attack. Rewritten defeated 2 more subordinates without using any weapons other than his hands. The guards were afraid to approach Rewritten, even though there were many more of them. Rewritten was angry, so he decided to attack them himself. He made such a fast dash that the ground beneath him cracked a little, and with that dash, he neutralized all the guards in the way. The other subordinates looked on in horror. They were very scared. Aluk shouted at them, telling them why they were frozen. The mage said that if they opened fire, they would hit their comrades. Then Aluk ordered them to aim at the pair, pointing at Jin and Gilly. Meanwhile, Jin pulled Gilly behind him and asked her to stand there for a second. So the mages created projectiles of fire, ice, and wind. They fired projectiles at Jin and Gilly. Jin said that they are all rank 5, and then we see how they were protected by a shield that appeared due to the power of the blue amulet. The attacking mages were greatly shocked by this. Jin just said thank you to Sister Luna for training. It's much easier after that. Gilly noticed that he hadn't even deigned to say goodbye to her before he left. And now an enraged Rewritten is shouting. He called all the opponents weaklings and said that they have nothing but numbers. For Emmy, we see how the energy of shadows began to appear. Rewritten wanted them all to drop dead, so he used shadow energy. And so he struck at Aluk's subordinates. Aluk himself and some of the mages standing next to him were horrified. Aluk was scared and confused. But then he smiled, picked up his sword, and started laughing out loud. He killed those who were standing next to him. Even though his subordinates were shouting that Aluk was angry, Jin didn't flinch. Rewritten then asked if Allah was crazy, then said that it would save him some trouble. Rewritten said that he had made sure that Jin was still alive, so now Jin can do whatever he wants. Aluk asked the heroes about who sent them. He was beside himself and once again asked who it was. Jin asked Aluk what difference it made to him, since he was going to die soon anyway. Then we see the aura fly at Jin, but he managed to dodge and it left a crack in the stone. Aluk is really fast. He said that he couldn't know if Jin was telling the truth or lying, Then he asked what he should do now. He said he wasn't going to suffer a one-sided defeat. Rewritten chuckled and said that Jin had finally found someone to compete with, and it looked like the rumors that Aluk was a 7-ranked martial artist were true. Rewritten happily shouted to Jin that Aluk is different from the Vishkal that Jin fought earlier because Aluk wants to kill Jin. He told me to go all out and try not to die. And now we see Aluk and Jin standing there, opposite each other. Aluk called Jin an upstart. He asked how dare a lowly mage come out here. Jin asked if Allah looked down on him and called him a rookie. Jin then unsheathed his sword and they clashed in battle. Aluk was surprised when he saw that Jin had a sword. Jin jumped back, and Aluk realized that Jin wasn't a mage. He continued to attack Jin. He was incredibly fierce. They continued to hit and parry normal sword strikes. Jin thought that the timing was right and he was about to hit, but as soon as he hit, Allah seemed to disappear. Jin was surprised by the move. Aluk hit Jin, but he seems to have bounced back. Aluk was displeased and said that it was a weak blow, but still we can see that there was a small scratch on Jin's body. Jin thought that Aluk was fast because he didn't fight at full strength, but it was already difficult for Jin to handle him. Aluk was yelling about how the fireball Jin used at the auction was an artifact. But inside, Aluk was thinking that he was in this situation because he had fallen for Jin's primitive trick. Still, Jin is not a problem in Aluk's opinion. Aluk turned around and looked at Rewritten. He is sure that Rewritten, who single-handedly took down all his 6s, is stronger than him. Aluk was wary of Rewritten just standing there. Rewritten chuckled and said that it looked like that damn brat had taken some serious hits. Jilly asked him if he really wasn't going to interfere. Rewritten said that of course, since it was the young master's wish, but perhaps if it was still too early for him to get up against the 7-ranked swordmaster. However, Rewritten then said that everything was fine and the brat should realize the cost of life. Jilly started to protest, but Rewritten interrupted her and said that he was beginning to think that she thought the young master was going to lose. And so their battle continues. Aluk continued to attack with his aura and sword. Suddenly, for a moment, Aluk struck Jin's sword, but Jin didn't let go of the sword and started falling backwards. Jilly started to worry when she saw this, but Rewritten was watching the fight closely. Aluk just smiled madly. He bumped into Jin and said it was the end. At that moment, Rewritten grinned. He said that a long time ago, when the Rankindle sword mages were still fighting, a difference of just 2 ranks was nothing to them. And we see that Jin used a fire spell and shot Allah with great power. It was battered, but Allah was still alive, and Allah knew it wasn't an artifact, which meant only one thing. Realizing that Jin was a swordsman mage, Aluk was shocked. Suddenly, Jin started electrifying, and then so did his sword. He raised the sword in front of him, then slammed it on the ground. He used lightning summon. Aluk started to run away from the lightning, but another lightning bolt appeared in the sky and it hit right at Aluk, but he beat it off with his sword. Aluk said it was if Jin stood there unprotected, he would definitely die. Jin then took hold of the sword with both hands, and his ring began to glow and shadow energy began to radiate from his hands. He used helmet release. Aluk hit Jin right on the head with his sword, but he was shocked when his sword stopped short of cutting through Jin's head. He saw that Jin was wearing a helmet that exuded shadow energy. Jin picked up the sword. Seeing this, Aluk took to flight, but Jin had already launched a punch and hit Allah's shoulder. Aluk was horrified. We see that Jin has a black helmet on his face. The cut that Jin made was small, but then Jin dealt a more serious blow and blood spurted out of the hole. After that, Jin put away his Bradamante sword and his anger dissipated. Rewritten said that it was supposed to be the Rune of Malt. He told Gilly that 1,000 years ago, the Rune of Malt was an object created for Bement, the first emperor, who was the demon's lover, and that there was a war going on for a long time. A masterpiece that blocks all attacks below the 7th rank. Rewritten couldn't understand how it had ended up in the hands of these bandits in the first place. Jin was thinking that the Rune of Malt was an item that would be offered to the Imperator of Bement in 5 or 6 years. During this time, the Academy and the press were hysterical about the discovery, so Jin remembered the location and date of its discovery very well. We see that Aluk is lying on the floor, powerless. Jin said he had one question before Aluk died. Jin said that he had heard that Aluk was somehow connected to the Rankindle family, and he asked if it was true. Rewritten said that he should have asked earlier, because what kind of answer does Jin expect to hear from someone on their deathbed? Aluk started to laugh, although he did it with difficulty. He said that now he knows. He smiled at Jin and said that he was Jin Rankindle. Aluk said that it was still true that he failed, but what to expect from the younger one. With his last breath, Aluk said that Jin wouldn't be able to stop this man. Rewritten asked what Allah was talking about, and Jin thought about it. Jin assumed that Allah Spiderhand was not his real name and said that he needed to find out. Jin started thinking out loud. A 7-rank swordmaster is a gang boss who has a connection to the Rangandals. Rewritten said that it wasn't so strange, since one of Jin's ancestors ran the bar, having the 9th rank. Jin said that he wanted to understand who Aluk was talking about. Jin needed to make sure because he was going to become the head. Jin replayed in his head Ao's words about how he had failed and couldn't stop this man. Oluk said that he knew Jin, so the fact that Jin failed probably has something to do with the shadowed illusion. And the reason he pointed out Jin's age and inability to stop this unknown is because he knows about the power struggle. Jin immediately crossed out Sister Luna because she left the family. Certainly not Mew, Anne, and the Blushies, who are too young and inexperienced. The others are not so smart and diligent as to get involved in these intrigues. Someone who is sensitive to rank, who pulled the strings when he found out about Jin's talent. Namely, the eldest heir, Joshua Rankkindle. Jin knew that no one else had that kind of influence. It doesn't matter if he jumped to conclusions or not. In any case, he decided that he would find out soon enough. Then we are transported to the city. We see people sorting through newspapers. It says that Tessing was eliminated thanks to a joint investigation by Zippel and Bemet. An evil gang that mistreated the innocent was wiped out in one day. Jin read the line where it says Jet did a good job. Murakin heard this and clicked his tongue because he wanted to kill him right away. However, Jin said that Jet would have been harassed by the Zippel family or Bemet, so it's a very small price to pay for his life. According to Murakin, this experience